Welcome back to the Overthinking Podcast, where we take all the fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle chaos in your brain and help you make actual sense of it.
And today we're diving into a topic that we see confuse a lot of people: nutrition tracking, metabolism, and all of the myths that keep you stuck. And a little sidebar, Kelsey and I just kind of freeform recorded a podcast about women's sports, trans athletes, kind of what that means to us. And we're just a little bit on a high, a little giggle high right now.
We're blabbing.
We've been blabbing. And so we're setting the tone with a really exciting episode. We think that this episode of macros, metabolisms, and misconception matters because people aren't struggling because they don't care. They're struggling because of the sheer amount of misinformation out there and because we're exposed to just so much. And today we're going to break down why macros are a tool, not a rule, and why your metabolism actually isn't broken, and some of the biggest nutrition misconceptions that are keeping you stuck. And between the two of us, we've coached thousands of clients. So we're going to give you the real talk today, the science, the strategies, the solutions that we've been working on with ourselves and all of our clients over the years.
But first,
we're going to play a little game called This or That. That was pretty good.
I love that was musical. Where'd that come from?
Because we're going to be talking about either Sabrina Carpenter or Chappell Roan.
You know I'm a big Chappell Roan girl.
Okay, but give us the tea. Why do we love her?
I mean, I just love her like bold diva drama energy. Like I'm so here for it. She's like the strong female feminine force that we need. Like I feel like decades ago, people are going to be mad at me for saying that. We had Madonna, we had Prince, we had divas. We haven't had a diva in a while.
Yeah. And it's tough because you see the decline of the divas that we looked up to, like Britney Spears.
Oh, God.
And even like Spice Girls. Like they were the divas. Like all of them were divas, but they just kind of...
They were train wrecks.
They became train wrecks.
I hope Chappell does not fall down that same trap. I think she's going to be okay because she's like a strong personality. I feel like she's got some wits about her. But I'm Team Chappell. I love, like, as a straight woman who's married to a man, like Team ally. Like I'm Chappell all the way. Like I'm here for it.
Yeah, I love that.
I be bopping Pink Pony Club. And so does Seth. Seth has a Pink Pony Club t-shirt, if that gives you any reference.
Which is such a stark contrast between like the 2000s like hip hop and like just all the hip hop that we hear at your house. But mine is a Sabrina Carpenter. Yeah. You know, even as a queer woman, Sabrina Carpenter is my gal. And I think both...
It's funny that we're opposite in that way. Like
it is. I think it's funny that it's interesting that both Chappell and Sabrina give us this exposure to fierce females who are okay talking about sex, who want to talk about sex, and who are not afraid of it, and who are willing to talk about because Sabrina is very much like this cutesy little sweet girl. But if you listen to the lyrics, like she's kind of like the Olivia Rodrigo of 2024 or 2025. Yeah. Like she's given the hard breakup lyrics. Like she's
telling these boys to fuck off. If they're being scrubs, like TLC scrubs, like now is Sabrina.
And she doesn't want you to forget that she also kisses girls. I don't actually know about her sexual orientation.
Does she kiss girls?
I have heard that. Yeah. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole. I mean, I've only like 3 days into listening to her album.
Feel free to comment if you know. I'm interested in that tea.
Yeah. I've been listening to her new album like 24/7.
And of course we digress, but let's get back on track to our topic at hand, which is macros, metabolism, and myths. And let's give our lady listener followers a little tea around the macros. First off, they're a tool, not a rule. I love this slogan. I think a lot of people be getting too rigid on macro tracking. And I think it gets really overwhelming.
And it all comes down to the level of your goals and the intensity at which you want to achieve those. Because I could rigidly track my macros, every single morsel and breath that goes into my mouth, or I can use tracking as a tool and not log everything, but what I do log is painting the picture for what, I have left in my budget, or food decisions for the next day or the next week.
As a quick little refresher to make sure everybody's on the same page, we should know that your macronutrients or macros are going to be your protein, your carbs, and your fat, and another acknowledged one, which is going to be your alcohol. So alcohol is its own subcategory of macronutrients. We don't typically count it because it's often not part of a regular diet, but these macronutrients, so we'll call it protein, carbs, and fats just for simplicity's sake, make up your total calorie intake. So if your calories are the umbrella, macronutrients are the ribs of that umbrella, holding everything up and giving it structure. So to quantify this, if you listen to the last episode where we talked about being feral and fit, we touched on alcohol and the calories it has. So we know that alcohol has 7 calories per gram, whereas protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram. And then finally, fats are going to have 9 calories per gram.
And the reason why tracking macros can be helpful is awareness and education. So an example of awareness is you don't know what you don't know. So if I'm eating right now, I'm eating these gummy bears,
which are fire,
which are really good. Swedish candy from TikTok, doesn't matter. They're primarily carbohydrates. So if I was just tracking macros for the first time, the benefit of tracking is knowing, oh, okay, when I have gummies, it's just carbs. The education is it also shows you patterns. Like when you log food again and again, if I just had gummy bears, I'd be like, wow, I have way less protein in my diet so far than I thought. And that's where we can step in with our clients and show them, okay, yeah, then maybe with that candy, you're going to want to pair it with a protein, or you're going to pair it with something else so that you're eating a little bit more balanced.
Yeah. Or maybe you eat these candies during your workout or after your workout so you can get that like quick, immediate like glucose burst when you need the energy the most.
That's literally why I just grabbed them, because my brain was starting to.
We've tried to record this like 4 times and we're like, what are words? I've never had a word before.
And my brain just needed a little bit of glucose. We're back on. And I'm just going to start us off with a little story. I coached this client for almost a year now. And one of the biggest struggles that she came to me with was that she was not able to get a hold of her cravings. She was having bad energy swings throughout the day. Her libido was low. She just couldn't figure out. She felt like she was doing everything right. She's like, even on the days where I'm really good, I just don't feel good. And I'm like, well, let's look at what are the days that you think you're doing really good. And she'd walk me through kind of what she was eating. I was like, do you have an idea of like what the portion sizes are of those meals? And she was like a chicken breast. I'm like, well, how big was the chicken breast? And so when I coached her how to track food and start logging things in, I was like,
you have people get a scale to know the portion size of like their chicken breast?
It's different. It's based on what the client is willing to do, really. And
what's your like best approach? Like, what do you prefer?
I prefer clients to weigh and use a scale if they have access to and they're willing to. I also educate my clients to use like a hand portion guide. So when they're weighing their food for their first couple times, compare that to the size of their hand and then identify what their individual hand portions are relative to what the protein is or carbs or fat that they're eating.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's a really valuable tool, especially when you're first learning to track food, because you're already setting yourself up for being more intuitive later on. And this particular client, after a week of logging, she was like, okay, so here's an example of a good day. It was 900 calories that she was eating. And she had like 20 grams of protein, which that sounds really judgy the way that I just like responded to it. But the way that we think of like a good day is so different than what this client thought. And it really wasn't a matter of her being lazy or not wanting the thing. She just had really shitty information to go off of.
Yeah, she just genuinely didn't know.
She was mirroring her plates based off what she saw of other girls on social media who had bodies that she wanted. So then when I said, okay, now show me a not good day. She had 1,600 calories. She had 50 grams of protein, which was more than the 30. But I actually was like, this is actually a better day for you. Because
did she feel better at that 1,600?
She was like shocked. She was like, well, I actually, had better energy that day. And I just was really down on myself and felt really guilty. And so how we kind of transitioned this is I was like, okay, well, let's just start with the protein first. We know that that's your biggest area of opportunity. So the first thing you're going to do, I don't even care about the calories. I don't care what you think is good or not good. We're just going to get as much protein into your mouth as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And after taking that focus on for not 1, 2, 3, but 4 to 6 weeks, that was our only focus. Her energy levels got better. Her cravings were completely gone, especially when we prioritized protein in the morning, which we'll get to. And the other thing is she actually had libido. She had good energy. Her relationship with her partner was better.
She probably had a good workout.
And she had a way better workouts. I mean, I don't really know what they were like before because I had just taken her on, but she just had like a night and day experience. And so I think for anyone listening to this, if you're one of those people who has like good days and bad days, I'd be really curious to see what metrics you're using to track what is good and what is bad.
Good or bad. Because I think like society has conditioned us to label good or bad. Like we all have heard that carbs are bad. Like the amount of times I still hear clients say they had pasta for dinner and that they felt shamed about it. I was like, what's wrong with that? Like it's going to give you an amazing workout today. Like as your trainer, like I am commending this. Like, yes, we want these carbs.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of benefit to having a coach, someone who's a professional, kind of like give you a pat on the back and green light the way. Like, okay, actually that's okay. Like I just had gummy bears, and anyone who's like, oh, a fitness coach is going to have gummy. It's like, I knew the why behind having that bite of food. And now I have power. I'm empowered to make better decisions that will support this. Okay, now I just had a bunch of carbs. So maybe in my next meal, I'll have a slightly less carbs, but more protein, more fats. Like these are the tools that we're going to teach you to learn. And so after those first 4 to 6 weeks, we got pretty clear on, where her deficiencies were and where she needed to prioritize. But also in those 4 to 6 weeks, I coached her to really look at the plates she's making that are aligned with her macros, because now we're in a more intuitive style approach where she's not logging her food every single meal, every single day, every single week. Instead, she's logging 1 or 2 days per week to get
like a little audit.
Yeah, to set up her blueprint for what she's probably going to follow similar to for the next couple days. Then, she also uses food tracking when she goes out to eat. So if she has a date night, she'll log her breakfast, log her lunch, and then she can better estimate how many calories, what macros she has left for her order when she goes out to eat.
Yeah. I think tracking services are so good for that too. Like if you're going out to eat, let's say a steakhouse, or maybe fortunately, it's like a common restaurant chain. Like most of those are going to be in the food tracking apps these days. And I think that's such a helpful tool. So you can kind of pre-plan what you're going to have. Like if you're going to, let's say, a steakhouse or Italian, you can pop in the filet or ribeye or whatever you plan to have. And it might also give you some little insight of oh shit, I didn't realize a whole ribeye is 800 calories, not including the sides that you're going to have. It gives you a way to okay, if I want that, let's plan ahead. Maybe the rest of the day, I'm only going to focus on leafy, big green salads with some protein, some lean proteins. And then when you get to that ribeye, it's not such a big deal.
Right. And so that's actually the biggest reason why clients feel like they're inconsistent. Clients come to me all the time. They're like, I suck at tracking macros. I'm the worst at being consistent. And I actually think it's not about the consistency is the output. The input is the pre-planning, right? It's the forethought of, okay, I'm going to track this breakfast and lunch so that I know what I have for dinner. Or on Sunday, I'm going to track all of my food for the week. I'm just going to put it into my MyFitnessPal, copy and paste day to day. And then when it comes to that day, if, there's donuts in the snack room and you want one, instead of having to admit the guilt and all of that, you can just edit the log, right? Because editing feels better than looking at a blank page and the first thing you put in is a donut. That doesn't feel good. Yeah. So I love to teach clients to just track or log everything in advance and then just edit and tinker as you go and kind of play a little game of Tetris so that even if you don't log your food at all that day, you still have something in there and you can just edit.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the night before logging. When I was tracking, I tracked religiously for a year or more. I just liked the data, but it got to a point where it was really toxic. And I think that's where a lot of my clients and the approach that I take with my clients, I think we have a little bit different methodology there, which is you probably have most of your clients tracked to some degree. And I think a lot of people in my consultations express that they don't have time for tracking. And I want to be a little more nuanced and flexible with that too, which is it's a tool, right? Not a rule. So we can use it to our advantage, but I always try to do from an action guidance. So if it's, I need you to eat up 4 ounces of protein at 3 meals per day. That's going to be the improvement, which is maybe 1 meal has protein. Mm-hmm. So I like to kind of more action stepwise it instead of tracking. And I think that tends to be a little more palatable for people.
I totally agree. And again, with my coaching, it's all comes down to, and for both of us, it all comes down to what the client's willing to do and what they're up for. And
a good coach is willing to tailor the program to what the individual needs.
And especially with the onset of ChatGPT, I used to spend hours making meal plans and macro. It's ChatGPT is so easy. You give them macros, you tell them what foods they like and don't like, and it spits out a meal plan for you. But I don't think meal plans work for everyone. I actually think that if we look at the spectrum of what's rigid and what's flexible, following a structured meal plan is so structured.
Yeah.
And then going to macros, it's like you can follow some of those like structured meals that are pre-planned. That's great. But then what macros does and tracking food is, for me, as somebody who's struggled with disordered eating most of my life, looking at these gummy bears that I just ate would have freaked me the fuck out. Not even like 4 years ago. Truly, like eating candy 4 years ago would have stressed me out. But because of tracking food and because of right sizing my fear around food and knowing that there's no good or bad foods, it's made it a lot easier to use tracking as a tool. And I just do that when I notice that my brain is getting a little bit squirrely and I'm getting a little bit restrictive with my food. It kind of gives me that green light to say, no, eat the food. You're okay. Mm-hmm. You need this for your training. You need this for your energy. And I think that a lot of times people are like, I have to be perfect and I have to like do everything 100%. But the reality is that like, the more you do, the more information you have and the more data you have. And that is what macros are. It's just data. It's not because you're a good or bad person. It's just a way to track metrics. And if you are trying to make a change in your body composition, you can't change what you don't track. And a lot of times people come to me really frustrated that they haven't been losing weight and they haven't been losing weight, but they haven't tracked any metrics.
Yeah, they don't know anything about where they're at now. So how are we going to know the path forward if we don't know where we're at now?
Yeah. And the last kind of biggest fault that I see and I still talk about a day in and day out with my clients is how to track when you go out to eat. And it's not something that's pretty straightforward, like the ribeye example. It's like a Cobb salad. Like how would you coach a client or how would you yourself log that or not in that situation?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a tricky situation and it takes some knowing, right? So like this is why the process takes so long, is that you're not going to get it right the first time. And eventually with, weeks and months and years of tracking and getting to know what's going into your body, you get familiar with what portions are actually like and what dressings are used. Like I could probably tell you what 2 tablespoons of ranch is just like off the top of my head because I've tracked for so long.
Yeah, you've been in the practice of it.
Yeah. And we were just talking about the example of a Cobb salad. So let's say you go out to eat and you get a Cobb salad. You type in MyFitnessPal or whatever app you're using, Cobb salad. Based on where you are, you could spit out 6 or 7 different metrics ranging from 290 calories to 688 calories. Which one are you to choose? In my guidance, I would probably say choose the one that has the higher calories because I would rather someone overestimate their calories, especially if the goal is weight loss, than underestimate. So if you're choosing the 291 in your brain, you're like, oh, I have so many extra calories left. I'm going to have this ice cream cone. And maybe that throws off your whole day or whatever. We're not really looking at daily metrics, but maybe it throws off your whole situation when in reality, what you really had was 700 calories.
Right. Yeah. That is such a great take, especially because it's so goal focused. If I'm trying to achieve a caloric deficit, yeah, you better choose the higher one just to safeguard yourself.
Yeah. Give yourself that buffer.
And I would give the client a similar kind of coaching there, but I also might ask the client to get a little bit more intuitive with their own hunger signaling as well.
Totally.
There's so much benefit to really using that intuitive cueing in line with macros. I have a lot of clients who'll be like, I, didn't eat all my calories for the day, but I was full. And that's actually a pretty common thing that we'll see with people, especially when they come to us in massive caloric deficits. And they're like, I'm not losing weight anymore. It's like, that's because your body's been adapted. It's been there too long. And we'll get there. But for now, I want you to hear me say, when you go out to eat and you're not quite sure exactly the caloric intake, chew your food very well and order something that you like to eat, but also make sure that you are staying committed to the hunger cues. Your body will know when it's done, especially if you chew your food really well.
I think that's why we say and we stress so strongly that protein is important because it's going to give you more satiating components than just say a pasta dish. Like if you just go out for mac and cheese, you're going to still be starving and you're probably going to eat all of it. Yeah. So it's upwards of 1,000 calories. Whereas if you have, let's say a ribeye, 8 ounces, you're going to get a third or halfway through and you're going to realize that you're full because you're satiated.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people get misinformation about oh, this food is bad and this food is good. And I think we have to go back to the slogan. It's about tracking as a tool, not a rule. So when you go out to eat, use your tracking as a tool, not as a rule to avoid certain foods or cut foods out, but to actually allow you to enjoy, indulgent and fun foods every so often, because you can both plan for them and you're going to know how your body's going to respond to it after.
Yeah, I like that. And you mentioned not losing weight at a certain point of like calorie restriction or being on a calorie deficit for so long. And I think that bridges to our next kind of topic in this episode, which is metabolism, and people saying that their metabolism is broken or they think something's wrong with them. So I think what people really mean when they say this and what's actually happening comes down to what happens to your resting metabolic rate. And this number is actually volatile and is affected by many things, some of it which is age, muscle mass, activity level, and dieting history. So when we spend a long time at a lower calorie intake, our body is going to adapt. We want to maintain a homeostasis to continue on with what it needs to do. And going back a little bit, I mentioned resting metabolic rate. So that's what your body burns at rest. So if you were to not get out of bed all day, if you were bedridden, that's just the minimum amount of calories that your body would need to maintain basic functions like breathing, brain, reproductive health. So we have instances where athletes especially are on low calorie diets and they start experiencing things like period loss. So those are all the functions that are going to be down regulated first.
And I'd love to talk about those big mistakes because I've made them. In 2017, I was living in Hawaii and I hired a macro coach and she had me on 1,500 calories. I was training 5.5 hours a day.
Damn.
I lost my period for 3 years.
And you're tall.
I'm 5'9".
1,500 is far too low.
And I was like 175 then, like so much muscle, but I was like inflamed from CrossFit and I just was trying to get the six-pack. So it's a combination
of stress input. So stress input being low calorie diet, stress input of CrossFit, stress input of like your regular life just being stressful because being human is stressful.
Right. And I was trying so hard to try to fit all of my calories into that target that she gave me. So I would sometimes skip breakfast. I would overindulge on certain things when I got a case of the fuckets. But I'll tell you, the biggest metabolism mistakes are, number one, chronically undereating like I was. Number two, not lifting weights, because what we do know is that the higher your skeletal muscle mass is, the actual amount of muscle tissue on your body, the higher that number is, the higher your basal metabolic rate will be. So your muscle is kind of like your metabolism insurance in that way. The third thing is what I was also doing, skipping breakfast and running on coffee because your cortisol really hates that. And cortisol is your fear and stress hormone. And during this time, we were talking about how I was inflamed and really like puffy. That is the cortisol belly, like the cortisol inflammation that we were talking about. And that's what I was experiencing when I lived in Hawaii, because like you said, stress and stress and stress and stress. I should have been eating more, sleeping more, and talking to people about the hunger cues, poor libido, no period symptoms that I was having.
Yeah. And I think what people often miss when we talk about hormones is that hormones are downstream of everything else that's going on, everything else that's happening in your life that is within your control, right? Like we can't control hormones, really, like not directly. We can control them indirectly with our behaviors and actions, which is things like making sure you're getting enough nutrients in your diet, keeping protein high, eating your fruits and vegetables, and getting enough sleep that you recover and restore yourself from exercise and just like daily stress life.
Yeah. And if we wanted to really go all in on trying to fix our metabolism, like if you're one of those people that's like, oh, my metabolism is just broken, we're going to give you like the very simple and effective way to ensure and prove to you that your metabolism is not broken. So first thing you have to do and stay consistent with is you have to lift weights. You have to strength train because again, muscle is your metabolism's bestie. It's kind of your metabolism insurance. And also we want to bump up that basal metabolic rate because if you can burn more calories at rest, it's just more fun foods for us.
Yeah. I always tell clients we want to diet from the highest effective dose. So if that means we need to get your maintenance calorie back up to something reasonable, like 2,000, like most women should be eating probably like 2,000 calories. Like I think the recommended intake is 2,000 for a 135 pound person. Like 2,000 calories is really not that much when it includes a diverse diet of fruits, vegetables, grains, and lean proteins.
And especially if your coach, aka us, is telling you to eat more and more and more protein. If you came to me at 1,200 calories, I'm telling you to eat 150 grams of protein, your initial instinct is like, that is way too much. That's way too many calories. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But we can. So you have to eat enough protein, and protein actually has a higher thermogenic effect of food. So you burn more calories when you eat protein because it is harder to break down and is a slower rate of digestion.
And it's also more satiating. So you're going to get the brain signals of like, I'm full faster with a protein focused meal instead of, and honestly, I don't know if like the satiating effect is the same for like a protein drink, right? Like
it's not, because you're not chewing. And when you chew, you release leptin just from that mechanical movement.
And you're also not filling your stomach. Like there's something to be said for like volume and density with our, like there's a thing called empty calories. We know empty calories are things like candy. They don't provide a whole lot of nutritional value, but they provide a lot of calories.
And a specific value if your brain is starting to turn off and you need a little sugar.
Yes. There is a time and place. We're not saying that any food is bad, but
that's not a life strategy, by the way. That's like a plan B strategy. But I do want to talk about the next one because, it's easy to skip foods or cut foods out or cut meals out to try to achieve a caloric deficit. But meal timing is actually really important, especially for women when hormones have a big role in how our body looks and feels. So not skipping breakfast is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And the reason why is because every single day for maybe a year at like 3 p.m. was my witching hour. I would drive to Trader Joe's, get that Perfect Foods bar, throw it away, not tell anyone about it. I was craving sugar so badly that I was closet eating every single day. And really what changed that for me was not skipping my breakfast, actually having 50 grams of protein before 10 a.m. or 100 grams of protein before 12 p.m. That was Kelsey that showed me today. And the moment I started doing that more consistently, I was not having panic attacks in the afternoon. I wasn't craving sugar. My energy was way more sustained and my brain function was better too. So not only is this going to help you heal your metabolism on the long term, in the short term, you're going to be getting these short-term effects that you're going to be like, okay, this is the proof of concept. This is why I'm doing it. You just have to be kind of curious and open to seeing what those are.
And the last one is, of course, we don't want you to continue extreme dieting. So if you're someone who has been on a low calorie diet for a while, or you find yourself continuing to yo-yo diet, it might be time to revisit a more balanced approach or kind of bringing your nutrients up a little bit and focusing more on whole foods instead of only restricting. I think it gives us a more balanced approach.
Yeah, I think if you're someone who's listening to this and you've been in that extreme dieting or yo-yo zone, the main thing I can tell you is prioritize the morning time. Please eat breakfast in the morning and also before coffee. There's so much that I could say about gut health, but if you could just have like a bite of food, especially protein, before you have your coffee.
What's your go-to protein breakfast?
Great. It's called Proats. Named Proats. Protein oatmeal. I will put like an entire carton of egg whites, like like the small cartons from Trader Joe's.
Egg whites.
Yeah, I'll do like a whole small carton of egg whites, cook that up. And in the meantime, I'm also cooking my oatmeal. So I'm putting like some warm, hot water on my oats. I'll typically do like, I don't know, half a cup. And then sometimes I'll add chia seeds. Usually I do. And then I'll mix the egg whites that I cooked in my oatmeal, and I'll just put a little bit of PB2 and a little bit of like oat milk. And it's like a yummy.
The eggs and the oats are a little weird to me. I'm skeptical, but egg whites don't really have flavor, so I can't imagine it being too gross.
So in that example, I sweetened them, but a lot of time I'll do it savory. Well, I'll do like egg whites, oats, and I'll put like ghee or butter, and then like some different seasonings like paprika and
everything but the bagel
seasoning, maybe even some like chili powder. So I'll do either sweet or savory just based on what I want, but that's my go-to.
I love that. What's yours? My go-to is, especially for the mornings that I'm on the go, or some sort of like breakfast sandwich. Like I'll do an English muffin, couple turkey sausage patties, and an egg that I just make like the night before. And then
she just says that like, oh, I just like whipped it up. I mean, to me, that's like a Michelin restaurant.
Yeah. Well, people are going to think I'm pretty gross, but I'll just like whip up an egg in a bowl and throw it in the microwave for a minute and boom, you got an egg. Like It is so not fancy.
And actually that's a great segue, because the people who skip breakfast like I used to are typically the ones who really eat a ton at night. And that is one of our 4 biggest nutrition misconceptions that we're going to go through with you today. And that is eating at night makes you fat. It is a myth. Total calories is what matters more than the meal timing. If you're in a caloric deficit, it literally doesn't matter if you eat at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. It's the quantity of the food that you're eating and how your body responds to it.
Yeah. But the main key from that is like, we want to avoid that inner goat is what I call it. The inner goat coming out where you want to eat everything in the pantry, including your kitchen, your sofa.
And that experience.
Not in the kitchen, in the living room.
And that experience is exactly what happens when you skip breakfast and when you don't eat protein in the morning.
Yep.
If you are snacking and ravenous at night, you are this person, or your morning time food is just not, either you're not eating it, like you're chewing it all the way and your body's absorbing it, or you're just not eating enough of the right things. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some other myths here. What do you got for us?
I love the one that fruit has too much sugar, or like I've literally had clients ask me if they're allowed to eat grapes. And I'm like, yeah. What's wrong with the grape?
Were they dropped on the ground? What happened to them?
Like what happened to it? Is it okay? Like, is it moldy? Like, no, it's just, yes, please eat grapes. Yes, eat fruit. You should have 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day at minimum.
Yeah. I say that have protein, a fat, a carb, and a color with every meal.
No one got fat from eating too many apples or grapes.
They ate. If they did, it was because they ate that on top of what they were already eating and they put themselves in the surplus.
For sure. And I think that argument comes from back in the day, the glycemic index, which we know is not fully valid because most people aren't eating these things in isolation. Mm-hmm. And in a mixed meal, that glycemic index kind of doesn't hold a lot of value. So when you have, let's say, grapes alongside a protein shake, you no longer have the glucose or insulin spike. Like it nulls the effects. So, and that's not to say that like eating grapes in isolation is going to spike your insulin. No, it's not really how that works. Like it would have to be a constant spike in insulin for it to become problematic.
And that's actually a great way for us to look at snacking. Like people will say, oh, I just need a snack and I'll just have some grapes and it'll tide me over. Maybe, but you also probably want to pair that with something else.
Yeah.
So instead of taking snacking out, no, you can have a snack, but make sure you pair it. Protein and a carb or a protein and a fat is typically the best combo.
Yeah. Or maybe you have like hummus and carrots, which is all around going to be a lower calorie option. Plus you're going to get a lot of fiber and density from the carrots that are already kind of hard to chew. So you have to chew it slower.
Yeah. And that's what's so funny when the other myth we were going to talk about, which is like, carbs make you fat. And that's just not the truth of it. Again, it comes down to calories. It comes down to energy balance. The energy that I'm outputting from, my exercise, my non-exercise activities, so just like fidgeting around the house, the thermogenic effect of food, which we just talked about, where eating more protein actually helps your body like burn more calories because of the type of food it is. There's just more than just one metabolism. There's multiple. But I'd love to hear you talk about what you tell your clients when they tell you that they don't want to eat carbs or that they can't.
If we remember from the beginning of the episode, we mentioned that carbs have 4 calories per gram. So depending on the weight of your carb at hand, you're going to get less calorie density per volume than, say, an avocado. Like one avocado has like 600 calories.
Mm-hmm. And it's so small relative to like that size of rice.
A cup of carrots has like 60 calories.
Yeah.
So it comes down to total energy intake.
And when I tell people to eat high volume, like what we're talking about, that term high volume just means adding in more low calorie foods, especially they're usually colorful foods and they have more fiber. So they're not only going to make you more full because of the more volume you're eating, but also because of the fiber in it. And also because typically fruits and vegetables have a little bit of a crunch to them. And so when we hear and feel the chew and the crunch, that actually helps our body release leptin, which is the satiety hormone.
Speaking of satiety, the last myth that we have for you, and to be honest, I didn't know this was a common myth, but apparently it is, animal protein is bad for you, when in fact, which this is a myth to confirm, that high quality animal protein is actually one of the most nutrient dense foods out there. And it's obviously going to be the most satiating. I think this revolves around the idea that animal protein and things like eggs increase cholesterol and cause like high cholesterol in the blood, when we know this is actually not true. We know that high saturated and trans fats are what causes high cholesterol. So a way to mitigate this high animal protein potentially being bad for you is increasing our fiber intake, and also choosing options that are going to be on the leaner side. So things like white fish, chicken, lean cuts of steak and beef, and also making sure that we're reducing intake of things like bacon, cured meats, because those are going to be the highest saturated fat items.
And it's not that we never have them. I mean, we love a coochie board. It's just a matter of prioritizing the times when I have a social event. It's like, okay, if I know I have a party at Seth and Kelsey's, I'm making the coochie board, then I know I'm just going to reserve a little bit of that, budget for some of these fun foods for the weekend. And again, when it comes to protein, like, it doesn't mean you can't have bacon. It's just don't make that your primary protein source. It doesn't mean that you can't have trans fat, saturated fats. Just don't make it your primary, carb or fat source. And I think that's, where people get stuck in the weeds when we get super dogmatic about, well, if a little bit's bad, then all of it must be bad.
Right,
and that's what we're trying to avoid here.
Dose makes the poison, everything in moderation.
Yep. So let's sum this up. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us on this episode. We want to let you know that the main takeaways are macros are a tool, not a rule. So if you feel yourself getting really anxious about getting specific with the macros, take a breath. Just know that this is a tool to set you up for success long-term and getting more intuitive with your food. Number 2 is
your metabolism isn't broken. It's just waiting for you to fuel it right. So making sure that you're not spending too long in your low calorie stage. It's okay if you want to go through a dieting phase. And honestly, I always tell my clients to be prepared for the dieting phase. Like, don't try to do it over Christmas. You're going to ultimately be frustrated.
Yeah. Third is carbs aren't the enemy, and neither is protein. All of this, protein, fat, carbs, every food is a fuel. It's just a matter of, again, the dose, and not one macronutrient is going to make you more or less fat than the other, just like it's not going to make you more or less skinny. But the combination is a tool to help you get enough of the right types of foods to make sure that your body's running the best way it can.
And finally, the nutrition myths that we just talked about might be keeping you stuck. So hopefully we busted those together. And if you liked this episode, drop a comment or DM us. What's the biggest nutrition myth that you used to believe? And maybe we'll do a second episode.
And if you found this helpful, share it with a friend. And please, please, please keep talking about it. We're loving all the comments on social media and in the comments. So thank you guys for participating. And we look forward to seeing you next week
in the next episode.